the history of trade. So let's seize this moment. We're going to share real stories. We're going to face old challenges, and we're going to build bridges for prosperity. As Kwame Nkrumah, the great Pan-Africanist of Ghana, urged us 60 years ago, Africa must unite. So today we pick up the baton, driven by over 1 billion hopes and dreams of our people and $3.4 trillion in market ambition. And there couldn't be a better place than Abuja, here in Nigeria, for this forum to be born. Now, under President Tinubu's stewardship, Nigeria has moved from trade deficits to 5 straight quarters of trade surplus. He's unified currency exchange rates. He's grown non-oil exports by 173%. Come on, that deserves a round of applause. He's built a more stable, a more transparent border environment for all our partners. So let's enjoy a short film now, capturing the spirit of Abuja and the promise of African trade. From bustling markets to modern infrastructure, Abuja is a symbol of progress. This is Welcome to Abuja.
Nigeria.
Nestled between the Gulf of Guinea and the Sahel, Nigeria stands as the beating heart of Africa, a nation of resilience, diversity, and boundless potential. Since gaining independence on 1st October 1960, the country has evolved into a symbol of African pride and progress. With a landmass of 923,769 square kilometers and a population exceeding 200 million, Nigeria is not only the most populous black nation on earth, but also one of the continent's greatest success stories. Home to over 300 ethnic nationalities, Nigeria's cultural wealth is as vast as its natural endowment. From the timeless artistry of the Nok terracotta and the exquisite craftsmanship of the Benin bronzes, to the literary brilliance of Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, and Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, the nation continues to inspire the world with its creativity and intellect. In music, legends like Fela and Nicola Kuti gave birth to the globally celebrated Afro sound beat, a legacy now carried forward by modern icons such as Burna Boy, Davido, and Wizkid. Beyond culture, Nigeria is an economic giant. Its economy, the largest in Africa, powered by the abundant natural resources such as crude oil, natural gas, coal, iron ore, and limestone, as well as a fast-growing digital, creative, and fashion industry. The nation's fertile lands and diverse climate zones makes it a rising agricultural powerhouse, while the thriving film industry, Nollywood, ranks as the world's second largest by output. At the center of this dynamic nation lies Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, a city built to embody unity, peace, and purpose. Established as the capital in 1991, Abuja's calm landscape and majestic architecture reflects Nigeria's collective vision for a stronger, more connected future. Overlooking the city is the iconic Zuma Rock, a towering natural momentum that stands as a symbol of strength and endurance. It is in this vibrant and unifying city that Africa's next chapter of trade cooperation is unfolding. From 17 to 19 November 2025, Abuja is hosting the Customs Partnership for African Cooperation in Trade, Pact, a landmark event powered by the Nigeria Customs Service in collaboration with the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFTA, and African Import and Export Bank, African Bank, supported by the World Customs Organization. Pact is bringing together leaders of customs administration, trade ministries, regional and continental institutions, financial bodies, and private sector stakeholders to chart a bold course for Africa's economic integration and trade facilitation under the AFTA framework, with the theme, Breaking Barriers, Building Bridges. The Customs Pact is serving as a continental platform for dialogue, partnership, and innovation, highlighting how technology and collaboration and trust are redefining customs, operations, and trade across borders. As a strategic custom administration in Africa, the Nigerian Customs Service is standing at the forefront of this vision, championing modernization, cooperation, and digital transformation as tools for the inclusive growth and prosperity. The Customs Pact is a defining moment where Africa's future in trade and cooperation is taking shape. Together, we are breaking barriers, building bridges, and transforming continents.
Yes, indeed. Naija no dey carry last, as they say, even in trade. And I'm delighted to call to the stage a visionary leader in the advancement of trade. Nigeria's ongoing customs reforms have slashed clearance times and boosted transparency. We're seeing real progress here in Nigeria. Today, we look ahead to a future where trade barriers are a thing of the past. So we welcome, please, a warm round of applause for the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service. He's also the Council Chairperson of the World Customs Organization. Please welcome Dr. Bashir Adewale Adeni, PhD.
Thank you very much, Mark. Your Excellency, the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, represented today by the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, the representative of the Senate President, representative of the Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives, Honorable Minister of Trade and other ministers here present, the Secretary General of the World Customs Organization, Ian Saunders, His Excellency, the Secretary General of the World Customs Organization, Ian Saunders, the Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, the Vice President, Executive Vice President, Afrexim Bank, Mrs. Kanayo Awani, our Vice Chair, the West and Central African WCO, Malam Kunate, and all my colleagues from customs, heads of customs administrations here present. Please permit me, Mark, if I had disobeyed your directives about the protocol, let me just rest here and please adopt the protocol which has been brilliantly established by the Masters of Ceremony. Because I know that so many of our delegates came from long distances to be here. And some of you might be wondering, if this is going to be yet another conference when we talk about regional integration without integrating anything. I get your thoughts. We have been to those gatherings. This is going to be different. And I tell you why. We are not here to deliver speeches at each other. We are here because we have reached a point where customs administrations across Africa need to stop being spectators in the AfCFTA story and start being co-authors. I welcome you all to the first Customs Partnerships for African Cooperation in Trade, Pact for short, because life itself is too short for long acronyms. Think of this as less of a conference and more of a working conversation about what it will actually take to make AfCFTA work in practice, not just to look good on paper. The idea for this event didn't emerge from a conference room or a policy paper. It came from real observations and real conversations. Last year in Kigali at the Biafra conference, and again in Cairo earlier this year, I found myself making the same point to the Secretary General of AfCFTA. And that is the point that we need to stir the consciousness around the role of customs in the AfCFTA ecosystem. The agreement is ambitious and necessary, but without customs administrations that are equipped, coordinated, and actively engaged, we will be building a house without a foundation. In those discussions with the Secretary General, a critical point emerged that I believe should frame our work today and in the next 2 days. And that is the fact that customs all over the world are the custodians of trade data. We hold the most granular real-time information on what is actually moving across our borders, what is being traded, where it is going, what the values are. This data, when properly harnessed and shared, becomes essential intelligence for driving continental trade objectives. The SG was very emphatic about this in some few days when we met. If AfCFTA is to succeed, customs must leverage our unique position as data custodians to better serve the continental agenda. These conversations were not one-sided. We have also been engaging the WCO secretariat on how best to equip customs on the continent to take up our responsibility in promoting AfCFTA. From those exchanges, a consistent theme has emerged. One that I believe is fundamental to our success. And that is the imperative of regional ownership and collective discipline in our approach to AfCFTA implementation. What we do with these continental agreements cannot be driven from outside our continent. It must be anchored in African realities, led by African institutions, and sustained by African commitments. More recently, during discussions with Afrexim Bank, particularly in my last engagement with the Vice President in Cairo, this conversation has centered on something equally crucial, and that is the need for more institutional integration of resources and systems that complement each other in advancing AfCFTA. We cannot continue to work in silos. Our trade finance mechanisms, customs procedures, payment systems, and regulatory frameworks need to speak to one another. That integration is what will lead and translate to policy ambition into operational reality. What became clear from all our discussions is that we do need a platform, a practical forum where we could assess where we are, share what is working, and honestly confront what is not. And I should say, bringing this vision to life hasn't been a small feat. I want to acknowledge the tireless efforts of the organizing teams from Customs, the Secretariat of AFCFTA, and Afrexim Bank, who worked through the past 16 weeks, every week, to ensure that the necessary concessions were reached and that we could stand here today with a program worthy of our time and attention. I should say that the vision we are pushing here today aligns perfectly with the direction already set by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Mr. President has been very clear about his commitment to improving trade nationally through trade-friendly policies, with growing intra-African trade at the center of his strategic thinking. That presidential vision gives this gathering added significance and underscores Nigeria's determination to be at the forefront of continental integration. And of course, we are beginning to see tangible evidence that this approach is working. And let me just give you some numbers about that. In the first half of 2025, Nigeria's trade with other African countries reached an all-time high of 4.82 trillion, which is an increase of more than 600 billion naira compared with the previous year. This is a clear signal of strengthening regional trade momentum. Within West Africa specifically, Nigeria's export to ECOWAS countries have climbed significantly, reflecting our growing role as a hub for intra-continental trade and value chain. And as we deepen our partnerships across African markets, as we embrace customs and logistic modernizations and implement the AFCFTA framework more deliberately, we will be turning these gains into broader regional prosperity. And because this is the first time we are doing this, we have kept our expectations very modest. We weren't sure what the response was going to be. So I must say that I'm genuinely encouraged and I'm pleasantly surprised by what we are seeing. A total of 464 confirmed participants representing 28 countries, including 26 African nations. We have 12 senior customs officials in the room, directors, generals, and commissioners, colleagues, leading some of the continent's most important trade gateways. We have 16 diplomatic representatives present, including 5 ambassadors and several high commissioners, representing embassies and missions across Africa. And from the private sector, the people whose businesses depend on efficient custom processes, we saw some of them earlier today. We have an impressive showing of 53 CEOs and 19 managing directors. And that's over 70 senior business leaders who have committed their time to making AFCFTA work in practice. And here is what really tells us about this matter. Nearly a third of our private sector participants are CEOs and managing directors. These are people whose time is literally money, and 72 of them clear their calendars to be here. And that's not curiosity. That is conviction. We also have bankers in the room from institutions, financial institutions on the continent. Banks don't send teams to custom conferences unless they see the trade finance opportunities. This is money following policy, which means the market believes we are onto something very real. The numbers tell an interesting story. Out of the numbers I mentioned before, 210 of them are from the public sector, and a whopping 175 from the private companies, and 40 from NGOs, 14 from state-owned enterprises, and then a lot of my colleagues from the media. And in terms of regional representations, we also have delegates from all the regions in Africa. So I therefore urge you and let you know that people don't make that kind of journey for a conference that they are lukewarm about. And here is what excites me more. All the 5 African regions that we have are represented. And this is genuinely very, very continental, from Cairo to Cape Town, from Dakar to Dar es Salaam. Certain countries show up together. You know something bigger than regional trade blocks is happening right here in Abuja. Would we have loved to see bigger numbers and more balanced regional representation? Of course. But I'm satisfied that the engagement efforts from the organizing team, the customs, the AFCFTA Secretariat, and Afrexim Bank were not definitely in vain. What we have here is a solid foundation to build on. So let me be clear about what we are trying to achieve. The top desire, the primary outcome we are seeking from these 3 days is to see customs more actively engaged in AFCFTA implementation, not as passive recipients of trade facilitation frameworks that will determine whether the agreement succeeds or whether it struggles. So specifically, the purpose of Customs Pact 2025 is fourfold. One, we want to establish a strong customs framework that promotes lawful trade, enhances security, and drives sustainable economic growth across Africa. Two, we want to foster genuine dialogue and collaboration among African customs administrations, ministries, private sector stakeholders, and development partners. Third, we want to address key challenges head-on. We heard some of them this morning, including but not limited to trade data deficiencies, fragmented policies, logistic bottlenecks, and weak interagency coordination. And finally, we want to showcase best practices, new technologies, and cross-border cooperation models that are already working in some other places in the continent, which can be scaled up and adapted elsewhere. Over the next 3 days, inshallah, you will participate in panel discussions, presentation sessions, and conversations with economic operators. Some of what you will hear will be encouraging. Some of them will be challenging. All of them will be very necessary. We have designed this conference not to congratulate ourselves, but to learn from each other and live with the concrete ideas about what needed to be done. As I conclude, I must thank His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for honoring us with his presence and for his powerful endorsements and continued support for this initiative. I also want to thank my fellow heads of customs administrations for making the journey to Abuja. The first mention of this was at our regional meeting in Kinshasa, and I'm happy that the idea has gained traction and support of all of you. I also want to thank our Secretary General, Ian Saunders of the World Customs Organization. I know how hectic your schedule has been in the last few days, and we really appreciate you for your presence. The Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, thank you so much for your commitment to this idea. We really appreciate your presence. We also thank the Executive Vice President of Afrexim Bank coming to Nigeria within a short notice, and all of you for the partnerships in bringing this event to life. And I want to thank the private sector representatives who are here. Your perspectives are essential to everything we are going to be accomplishing. This is the beginning of something very, very important. I urge all of you, let's make it count. Thank you for your attention.
Another round of applause for Dr. Bashir Adewale Adeni, PhD, the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service, who has worked so hard, and his team has worked so hard to make this possible. This, the inaugural first ever CPACT. Yes, sir. All these changes are improving how business trade across borders. They're strengthening the trust between public and private sectors, and they're driving the kind of growth that we've long talked about. They're also bringing to life the mission of the Customs Pact, which is to build a customs business partnership that is practical, that is transparent, and is focused on progress for everyone involved, and is also something that supercharges the ambitions of the AFCFTA. And for that, I think we owe a big thank you to the Ministry of Finance of Nigeria, or as they say in the mother tongue of the gentleman that heads the ministry, Eshe Gidigan Ministry of Finance, because they have been instrumental in pushing this agenda. So it's truly fitting that we now welcome to the stage, representing the Nigeria's Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of Economy, and also the chair of the Nigeria Customs Service Board, the Honorable Wale Edun. Please welcome Dr. Doris Zoka Anite, CFA, the Honorable Minister of State of Finance for the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Your Excellency. Okay, thank you. Your Excellency, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, thank you for honoring this event and the invitation. Heads of customs administrations from across Africa, the CG Customs in particular, who put this together, representatives from Afreximbank, the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFTA, honorable ministers present, my apologies. I think, like we were advised, it's just better to stick on existing protocol. But I just want to recognize also the World Customs Organization, the Controller General of Customs, as I've already said, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please let me just stand on existing protocol. It's a great honor to join everyone here at this inaugural Customs Partnership for African Cooperation in Trade, Pact. I commend the Nigerian Customs Service in collaboration with Afrexim and with support from the World Customs Organization for convening all 54 African customs administrations here in Abuja to deliberate on matters that are central to Africa's shared prosperity. The theme of this conference, Breaking Barriers, Building Bridges, could not be more timely. As Africa deepens its integration under the AFTA, we must collectively dismantle the obstacles that hinder trade, revenue efficiency, and the seamless movement of goods across our borders. Customs administrations sit at a strategic intersection of trade facilitation, border security, and revenue generation. In Nigeria, customs reforms form a core pillar of our fiscal and economic transformation agenda under the visionary leadership of His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. The federal government firmly recognizes that efficient customs operations directly impact our national revenue, investment competitiveness, and the experiences of businesses moving goods across our ports and borders. Strengthening customs processes, therefore, goes beyond administrative efficiency. It is essential to boosting investor confidence, reducing the cost of doing business, and positioning Nigeria as a more agile and competitive player in regional and global trade. This is why we are committed to supporting modernization initiatives, including digitization of customs processes, enhanced interagency coordination, deployment of advanced scanning and risk management tools, and alignment with global best practices under the WCO framework. These reforms are not only about improving revenue, they are about creating a predictable, transparent, and business-friendly trade environment, one that supports sustainable growth, attracts investment, and enhances competitiveness. By strengthening the systems that underpin our trade ecosystem, we are laying the foundation for an economy that will continue to expand and prosper in line with the goals of our Renewed Hope agenda. As a former Minister of Trade, I have seen firsthand the immense potential of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFTA, and what it holds for our continent. It represents far more than a trade agreement. It is one of the most transformative economic opportunities of our time. With the promise of a single integrated market of over 1.4 billion people and a combined GDP exceeding $3 trillion, AFTA has the capacity to reshape Africa's economic landscape, stimulate industrialization, and unlock unprecedented levels of intra-African commerce. However, the realization of this ambitious vision does not rest on policy statements alone. It depends fundamentally on the efficiency, cooperation, and harmonization of customs administrations across the continent. Without streamlined customs procedures, coordinated border management, and shared digital systems, the full potential of AfTA cannot be achieved. Customs agencies are therefore the critical enablers of this historic integration effort, ensuring that goods move seamlessly, businesses operate confidently, and African economies benefit equitably from the opportunities before us. This conference is therefore a critical step forward, a critical step that enables faster clearance of goods, eliminating non-tariff barriers, improving cross-border data exchange, and developing shared systems that allow African businesses to trade more easily with one another. Nigeria is committed to playing its part in ensuring that AfTA delivers tangible economic benefits for our citizens and businesses. Our participation here underscores our belief that customs modernization and collaboration are essential to positioning Africa as Africa's leading trade gateway. As Minister of State for Finance, I wish to reaffirm the Federal Ministry of Finance commitment to deepening coordination with the Customs Service. Together, we are working to strengthen revenue optimization strategies, enhance fiscal transparency, and improve the ease of doing business at the border. This collaboration is fundamental not only for national development, but also for regional economic stability. Harmonized custom finance engagement across Africa, as championed by Pact, will accelerate the continent's march towards sustainable growth and shared prosperity. Let me commend the leadership of the Nigerian Customs Service for spearheading this historic initiative, and I extend also special appreciation to Afreximbank, the AfTA Secretariat, and the World Customs Organization for their partnership and technical support. To all participants here, I encourage you to engage deeply in the technical sessions and the deliberations over the coming days. The policy outcomes and partnerships forged here will shape our continent's economic trajectory for decades. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria stands ready to work with every African nation represented here to break barriers, build bridges, and unlock the full potential of intra-African trade. Thank you so much, and I wish you all a productive conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause, please, for the Minister of State. Now, I noticed that we are a little bit behind. I noticed that we are a little bit behind time, and I understand that the Vice President has another engagement outside of Abuja that he has to get to. So I would ask all the ensuing speakers to please maybe reduce and keep their speeches crisp and brief so that we can get through the program. Africa's manufacturing sector is key to economic transformation. And under Dr. Oduwale's leadership at the Nigerian Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, we've seen some really bold reforms, reducing non-tariff barriers, driving innovation, and expanding export capacity. Just this year, for example, I believe it was May, if I'm not wrong, thanks to your vision, Minister, Nigeria launched the AFCFTA Air Cargo Corridor, which is designed to cut shipping costs by anywhere between 50 to 75% and speed up deliveries for small and medium-sized enterprises with key trading partners in as far off places as Kenya, Uganda, and South Africa. So Nigeria is making it easier for businesses to compete, to grow, and to attract new investment. It gives me great pleasure then to invite, and please give her a huge warm welcome, the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment of Nigeria, Dr. Jumoke Oduwale.
Your Excellency, the President of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ably represented by His Excellency the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima. Please permit me to rest on the very well adumbrated protocols. I'm a compliant. I know Mark will be happy with me. It is indeed my pleasure to join you all, key stakeholders of the African Continental Free Trade Area and Friends of Africa, at this Customs Pact Roundtable. I would like to begin by expressing my excitement at being here today to share some insights with this particular audience. And I'll tell you why. Today's conversation is one that is pivotal in ensuring that our collective efforts are intentional, coordinated, and effective in actualizing the Africa we want. As we are all well aware, the AFCFTA, the largest free trade area in the world by number of countries, is by far the most important tool for fostering economic development of the African continent. However, for impactful implementation of the agreement, we all need to push our policy agenda comprehensively and cohesively, both hard and soft infrastructure, with optimal coordination. Nearly 6 years in, there remain foundational implementation challenges to attain the full operationalization of the agreement, for which today's audience plays an existential role. For instance, average days of waiting for goods at an African border is 11 days compared to 6 days in India. We are all the ones required to deliver the coordination within government and to work with private sector to build value chains and enablers, in essence, our shared trade facilitation mandate for Africa. Let me therefore first acknowledge a true partner in the trenches of trade facilitation here in Nigeria and the protagonist of today's gathering, the Comptroller General, Bashir Adewale Adeni, MFR. Thank you for bringing us key AFCFTA stakeholders from over 28 countries across Africa together for this crucial and long-awaited conversation on the pragmatic manifestation of the economic trajectory of our region. Under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's bold, decisive leadership, Nigeria has captured global attention and renewed investor confidence. In just over 2 years, this administration has unified exchange rates, removed fuel subsidies, modernized tax and customs systems, and strengthened fiscal discipline. Under the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, intra-African trade, particularly in goods, is a central pillar of Nigeria's economic diversification and industrialization strategy. With a combined 48% of GDP, our industries and agriculture sector, from our much-loved consumer products to our pharmaceutical brands, to our commodities and agribusiness products, to the crucial role that petroleum plays in our foreign exchange earnings. The Nigerian economy is a trading economy, and trade in goods plays a significant role, a critical pathway to creating better jobs, building stronger businesses, driving diversified and sustained growth, and accelerating regional economic integration under the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President. The FMITI is the anchor and spearhead of this ambition. At this important occasion, I am pleased to share some of our recent efforts, many of which have been undertaken in close collaboration with the Nigerian Customs Service. Earlier this year, Nigeria gazetted its provisional schedule of tariff concessions for trading goods under the AFCFTA. Since then, we have commenced implementation of preferential rates from goods made in Africa. Nigerian businesses now enjoy reciprocal reduced tariffs in other AFCFTA state parties that have similarly gazetted their schedules. In May 2025, we pioneered a dedicated air cargo export corridor to East Africa and South Africa in collaboration with Uganda Airways and UNDP and the Nigerian Customs Service. This corridor has drastically reduced export costs by 50 to 75%, ensuring Nigerian goods are priced competitive and easily accessible to African consumers. We are now advancing similar dedicated corridors via maritime, road, and rail to enhance efficient intra-African trade. Nigeria has also submitted a schedule of specific commitments for trade in services under the AfCFTA to the ECOWAS Commission for onward transmission to the African Union Assemblies of Heads of States and Government. In July 2025, Nigeria recorded another historic first as the first AfCFTA state party to conduct and publish a 5-year implementation review as mandated by the agreement. This honest, data-driven reflection provides the evidence base needed to refine a whole-of-economy implementation approach. Nigeria has also taken decisive steps, including establishing the multi-stakeholder AfCFTA Central Coordination Committee and fast-tracking the National Single Window, which will serve as the backbone for efficient, transparent trade procedures. These policy actions are yielding results, and this year, Nigeria's trade performance shows strong momentum. Overall, exports increased by 21%. Non-oil exports grew by 24.75% in Q1 2025, driven by agriculture, value-added goods, and solid minerals. Underpinning this growth is Nigeria's industrial and manufacturing sector, which are rising again. We are expanding productive capacity, modernizing factories, and strengthening value chains that create real jobs for our people. In just 1 year, manufacturing grew by 6.4%, with strong gains in metal products, food processing, and textiles. 4 new industrial parks have already created over 16,000 jobs. Through the Industrialization Strategy 2025, we are building sector clusters in textile, automotive, and agro-processing across 6 new industrial zones, ensuring that Made in Nigeria truly means pride in Nigeria. And I'm proud to say that FMITI's close and purposeful collaboration with the Nigerian Customs Service, particularly with initiatives such as the National Single Window Project, is strengthening our collective role as a true trade facilitation institution. To unlock Africa's full AfCFTA potential, we all must continue to work together to develop predictable, simplified, and digitized procedures, especially for SMEs, which make up over 80% of African businesses. Ensure that AfCFTA certificates of origin and other documentation do not become hidden costs or barriers. Move forward fully digitized, interoperable, and cost-free AfCFTA certificates of origin accessible to all African traders. AfCFTA certificates of origin are a key matrix of implementation. High rates of certificate issuance signal 2 fundamental indicators of economic transformation. 1, strong and growing intra-African trade flows, and 2, high levels of domestic production geared towards the African market. Every other outcome we aspire to, from job creation to improved livelihoods to increased government revenue flows from this powerful intersection of industrialization and trade across the length and breadth of Africa, ensuring peace and prosperity for all. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the global trade landscape is shifting before our eyes. Across the world, services have overtaken goods as the primary engine for international trade, now accounting for over half of global trade value. Here in Nigeria, services already contribute more than 50% of our GDP, driven by finance, professional services, technology, and retail. This reality reflects a broader African and global trend, one that reminds us that our continent's growth path cannot be either or. The future isn't trade in goods or trade in services. It's goods and services. And this is how we will create jobs, expand exports, and build prosperity. In February 2025, the 38th Ordinary Session of the Assemblies of African Union Heads of State and Government named Nigeria as co-champion of digital trade under the AfCFTA alongside Kenya and South Africa. Since then, FMITI has worked closely with the AFCFTA Secretariat, and the Secretary General is here, in this leadership capacity to develop a comprehensive implementation strategy for the Digital Trade Protocol, covering digital inclusion, access to data, data for development, and enhanced digital public infrastructure across Africa. 2 weeks ago, the Federal Executive Council approved Nigeria's ratification of the AFCFTA Protocol on digital trade, making Nigeria the first African country to do so. As we accelerate digitization, we must remain inclusive. African customs services have an important role to play, particularly in trade facilitation for e-commerce and leveraging digital public infrastructure. As we progress collectively, we must never forget the realities of internet access, literacy levels, language differences, and the varying levels of our young people, women, and SMEs across the continent. Technology is what will propel Africa forward. In conclusion, let me once again commend us all for our dedication and commitment to domesticating and operationalizing all that we are discussing over this Customs Pact roundtable. In furtherance of Nigeria's unwavering commitment to the AFCFTA and in line with item number 7 of Mr. President's Renewed Hope Agenda, allow me to formally invite you to Nigeria's inaugural AFCFTA Public, Private, and Press P3 Summit, holding right here in Abuja from the 24th to 25th of November 2025. The summit will focus on the simplification of formalities for trade under the AFCFTA and will serve as a national action platform. Let me also seize this opportunity to invite all customs administrations here present to participate actively in the next edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair, IATF, and the VP is here from Afreximbank. Nigeria will proudly host IATF in 2027 with a precursor in Q4 of 2026, the CANEX, in the vibrant megacity of Lagos, where we will deepen regional engagement, strengthen collaboration, and showcase the critical role of customs in driving the continent's trade transformation. Africa is taking ownership of its growth story. We are investing in our people, strengthening our institutions, and building the systems that will enable African businesses to scale across borders under the AFCFTA. Let us build an Africa that trades more with itself, scales faster, and prospers together. Thank you for your attention. Good morning.
Thank you very much, the Honourable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment of Nigeria. Now, just last month, we witnessed a very powerful moment in Cairo as Professor Benedict Orama, a son of the soil here in Nigeria, passed the leadership baton to Dr. George Elombi, Afreximbank's new president. Now, Afreximbank works closely with Nigeria Customs Service and the AFCFTA Secretariat to make this event possible. Let's enjoy this short video celebrating Afreximbank's incredible impact on Africa's trade landscape and Africa's trade future. Roll it.
Africa's economic dream has long been hindered by invisible borders, cross-border trade costs, delays, and inefficiencies that slow our continent's growth. As early as 1963, Africa's founding fathers at the Organization of African Unity, OAU Summit, recognized this challenge, calling for improved transport and transit facilities. Decades later, despite trade agreements and regional blocs, businesses still struggle with fragmented trade routes and costly delays. For over 3 decades, Afreximbank, a Pan-African multilateral trade finance institution, has been at the forefront of solving Africa's trade challenges. Through strategic initiatives, the bank has empowered businesses, facilitated cross-border trade, and driven economic transformation. In 2020, Afreximbank introduced the Afreximbank African Collaborative Transit Guarantee Scheme, backed by a $1 billion facility to revolutionize how goods move across the continent. Partnering with key stakeholders such as regional economic communities and the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, the bank sought to eliminate barriers holding Africa back. To implement this vision, Afreximbank partners with ZEPRI PTA Reinsurance Company, a regional reinsurer with a strong track record in trade guarantee systems. Mandated to promote regional trade and development, ZEPRI has played a key role in building capacity, enhancing skills, and advancing inclusive insurance. With decades of experience in managing cross-border transit risks, ZEPRI remains a vital force in regional economic growth. As a manager of the COMESA RCTG reinsurance pool, ZEPRI has supported over $10 billion in cross-border trade and facilitated the issuance of 1,300 bonds worth $1 billion annually. Their deep expertise in reinsurance, combined with Afreximbank's financial muscle, laid the foundation for something revolutionary. Together, Afreximbank and ZEPRI are launching the Trans-Africa Bond Alliance, TABA, a groundbreaking initiative to unlock Africa's full trade and investment potential. TABA seeks to promote and sell de-risking instruments for transit and trade facilitation bonds on the continent. TABA will work with African financial institutions, including primary sureties, to create an ecosystem that benefits from ZEPRI's expertise in bond underwriting and reinsurance enhanced through the Afreximbank partnership. With a single technology-enabled transit bond, a trader can now move goods from Cape Town to Cairo without unnecessary delays, multiple permits, or excessive costs. TABA empowers African institutions to issue transit and trade facilitation bonds at an unprecedented scale. TABA isn't just a system, it's a game changer. Through transit or custom bonds, trade facilitation bonds, bid or tender bonds, advance payment bonds, performance bonds, maintenance bonds, retention bonds, shipment bonds, payment bonds, and container guarantees, we are closing the insurance capacity gap, ensuring local and regional stakeholders retain more premiums, stimulating trade and investment, unlocking new opportunities for African businesses and engineer, procurer, construct, EPC firms, driving regional integration, enabling seamless movement of goods across borders. By reducing trade barriers, we are fueling Africa's rise as a global economic powerhouse. The future of Africa trade is here. The time to act is now. Businesses, investors, governments, this is your opportunity. Join TABA today. Apply for bonds, expand your trade, and be part of Africa's transformation. Together, through TABA, Afreximbank and ZEPRI are building Africa's future one bond at a time. Join TABA today and apply for bond by visiting our website transafricabondalliance.com. TABA, one bond, one Africa.
Afreximbank, a powerhouse bank. Now, I'm looking at my watch, and I see that we are really very, very tight on time, and I'm cognizant of the fact that the VP has an engagement. So I want to ask the remaining speakers, we only have a couple more speakers, I believe, to keep their remarks really brief. And maybe throw out the script and speak from the heart. Everyone who comes up here lives, breathes, eats, and sleeps trade, so they can do it for sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, the World Customs Organization, it does more than set global standards. It's also actively partnering on Pact. It's working with Nigerian customs and the AFCFTA to reimagine how goods move across Africa. Through collaboration, the WCO is helping to break down barriers for faster, more transparent, and secure trade. So, let's welcome all the way from the WC headquarters in Belgium, the Secretary General himself, Mr. Ian Saunders.
His Excellency, Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, Secretary General Mene, distinguished ministers, Directors General of Customs, esteemed colleagues and guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you at this convening of the first Pact conference. I want to express first my gratitude to the Comptroller General of Nigeria Customs for the invitation and for the opportunity that it presents for me to engage with you to highlight what I view as the essential role that customs administrations play in trade facilitation. While the indispensable role of customs in trade facilitation is a global reality, it's one of punctuated importance here in Africa at this time. Efforts undertaken on the continent to pursue greater intra-Africa trade have made clear the connection between customs and trade. But present efforts like the AFCFTA clarify further this relationship, the incredible potential that it offers, and the scale of the missed opportunity if the moment isn't seized. Mindful of the importance of this moment and of the knowledge, insights, and ability to act represented by the people in this room, the theme of this event, Breaking Barriers, Building Bridges, is meaningful. The theme reminds me of something that we say often in the World Customs Organization and its community. Borders divide, customs connects. The goals implicit in the theme and the combination of participants gathered in this room very much align with the WCO's vision of bringing customs together for a safer, more prosperous, and sustainable world, of which a dynamic Africa is a critical part. And I don't just say this because of where I happen to be standing and where we're meeting. The fact of the matter is that objective data confirms this point. The African Development Bank Group's African Outlook for 2025 indicates economic growth in Africa is expected to rise to 3.9% this year, with a projection of 4% next year. On the continent, 21 countries will achieve growth exceeding 5% this year, and anticipated growth rates for Africa will exceed the average for most parts of the world. There's good news on the continent. But these near-term economic prospects are the result of a confluence of factors. But they have potential that is magnified by the AFCFTA enterprise, which could increase exports significantly, as well as increase the continent's revenues. But cross-border transactions, be they exports or imports, or transit transactions, and revenues are at the core of customs responsibility. And it's for this reason that the WCO is here standing with you, to support the future state that very much relies on the ability to manage volumes of trade, access to markets, and predictability for businesses, things that customs manages every day at borders in every corner of the globe. The WCO's reason for being is to provide leadership on customs matters by developing standards and building capacity to support their implementation, so that we create a trade environment that facilitates legitimate trade, ensures appropriate revenue collection, and protects society. The agenda of CPAC embraces much of the same, focusing on trade facilitation and the elimination of non-tariff barriers in the African context, a context shaped by your AFCFTA commitments on one end of the spectrum, and on an important set of challenges on the other side of the spectrum, like transportation infrastructure, overland movement costs, and a higher than average reliance on efficient transit procedures. In the agenda of this conference lies the potential to do better. Not so much because every challenge can be solved here at this conference, but because one very important one certainly can. Establishing a strong connection between the vision of trade policy on the continent and the leaders responsible for the cross-border practicalities that make much of it happen. I think of this as an opportunity for the trade architects and the trade builders to come together. From my own experience, I'm grateful for the Directors General of Customs of Africa, for their administration's strong and long-standing engagement in the WCO, for their efforts to incorporate global standards into their operations, and for understanding the positive economic and social conditions that well-functioning customs administrations can make possible. And I believe it's this recognition and this drive that can enrich the CPACT initiative. I'm also grateful to the political and policy leaders that have opened this space for this dialogue and for ensuring a place for the WCO as a committed multilateral partner, which has the tools and the technical guidance that directly speak to the disciplines that enhance customs operations. We've been deeply engaged in a number of capacity-building activities on the continent focused on the customs discipline supportive of the AFCFTA. And we've worked with the AFCFTA Secretariat for a number of years, supporting customs administrations in implementing the requirements of the Free Trade Agreement, including through the use of WCO tools and instruments. While much work has been done, there remains much more to do. Continuing to advance concepts into action via assistance will be an important part. National administrations optimizing use of the expertise that they receive will be another important ingredient. Leadership investment and attention to consolidate the gains will be critical. I'm excited about the prospects of the CPAC for its ability to mobilize key African actors in the direction that I just mentioned, and to unify those here in advancing practical approaches to achieve the continent's ambitious vision. I often say that customs exists at the intersection of policy intent and operational effect. And it's my hope that the Customs Pact truly breaks the barriers and builds the bridges that allow Africa to continue to march toward greater prosperity through international trade. Mr. Vice President, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. Please receive my earnest wishes for a productive forum. Thank you.
Now, our next speaker is not just a powerhouse in banking. She's a proud daughter of Nigeria, leading Afreximbank's tech markets and create jobs. So join me in welcoming her as she shares how these innovations break barriers for Africa's trade. Please welcome Executive Vice President, Intra-African Trade Bank at Afreximbank, Mrs. Kanayo Awani.
Allow me to acknowledge the presence of Your Excellency, Senator Kashim Shettima, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Allow me also to welcome or to acknowledge the Secretary General of the AFCFTA, Wamkele Mene, who is also here. Allow me also to acknowledge my dear sisters, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who is the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, as well as dear sister, Dr. Doris Anita Uzoka of the Ministry of Finance, representatives of the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Your Excellency, Mr. Ian Saunders, Secretary General of the World Customs, Dr. Bashir Adewale Adedi, Controller General of the Nigerian Customs, all heads of African Customs Services and related parastatals, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is really a privilege and honor to address this distinguished audience at a defining moment of our economic future as a continent. At the outset, let me express sincere appreciation to the Nigerian Customs Service and in particular the Controller General, Dr. Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, and the government of Nigeria for inviting us to partner with them to make this event possible. We also cannot thank you, Dr. Adeniyi, enough, you and your team, for the work you did in accelerating clearance and ease of passage of medical equipment at the African Medical Center of Excellence. I bring greetings from Dr. Elombe, our president. Allow me also to set the context in which Afreximbank decided to co-organize this forum. We recognize and commend the progress made in the negotiation and ratification of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. 54 signatories, 49 ratifications. The speed with which this agreement was ratified and entered into force is clear demonstration of our collective political will and also decisive action that Africa has taken to rid itself of the vestiges of colonialism and the divisions which have for far too long undermined our continental integration and socioeconomic progress. And while the progress on the conclusion of the legal framework should be lauded, we now need to focus on implementation. The implementation of the agreement cannot happen without the active participation, the active engagement and support of the customs officials. We realize that while we at Afreximbank can build industrial parks, we can give loans to establish processing plants, we can give loans to build infrastructure. If we do not address the soft infrastructure issues relating customs and trade facilitation, goods will not move freely under the AFCFTA. According to Auda and NEPAD, 75% of the delays in the movement of goods are due to trade facilitation issues, including border procedures, while only 25% is attributed to infrastructure gaps. So this is just not an inconvenience. It is a structural drag on industrialization. It is a drag on intra-African trade growth. It is a drag on integration. It's also a drag on our competitiveness as Africa. Furthermore, the arteries of commerce, which are the roads, the borders, the customs system, will remain clogged with inefficiencies that will undermine us further. I'm sure we're all aware of the fact that it's easier and it is cheaper to bring a container from China, from Guangzhou, from Shenzhen to Lagos than from Abidjan or Accra. At some point along the Lagos-Abidjan route, there were over 50 checkpoints, over 400 trade barriers, and despite there being only 2 official checkpoints, trade has faced nearly 100 stops, many of them unofficial. And this is not an isolated case. This is not a case of only West Africa. It's a case of East Africa. In East Africa, along the northern corridor covering about 1,700 kilometers, the average transit time is about 11 days, over 300,000 cost per container. Compare it to 3 to 4 days in Asia for similar distances. Along Abidjan and Ouagadougou route, trucks often wait 3 to 5 days at borders due to redundant paperwork, multiple agencies, and there's also the lack of harmonized systems and the lack of interoperability of the systems, as well as national customs systems that do not speak to each other. Not to talk of the work hours of African customs across the various borders that are not synced. However, it is not all doom and gloom, and we're seeing the benefits that deliberate reforms are bringing. Some of these reforms involve custom-related modernization initiatives, incorporating key elements of trade facilitation, as well as the entry of private sector programs, including public-private partnerships. Along the corridor of Dar es Salaam and Kigali, transit times have reduced from about 10 to 14 days to about 6 days, while transit costs have also come down by about 20%. This follows the implementation of a regional custom transit system supported by a single transit bond. At Kazungula Bridge, Zambia to Botswana border crossing, the times have reduced from 3 days to a few hours when a one-stop border post was established. East Africa's single customs territory is another. Interconnection of customs systems across East African community partner states, enabling real-time information, sharing and use of a single transit bond has helped slash clearance times by over 70%. Before the modernization of the Bay Bridge border, this is South Africa and Zimbabwe, clearance took 7 hours. But with the upgrade that was done with support from Afreximbank and other partners, it now takes less than 12 hours. The implementation of an electronic single window in Rwanda led to a reduction of import clearance time by 40% and export clearance time by 55%. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and we have seen similar successes in Nigeria here as well, as been severally mentioned. Nigerian Customs Service has transitioned from ASCUDA to Nigerian Integrated Customs System, NISIS, that culminated in the adoption of the BODOGU Unified Customs Management System, which is an indigenous homegrown digital platform designed to streamline clearance processes and enhance efficiency. The panel earlier in the morning spoke so eloquently about that system. These reforms also have delivered measurable impacts. Clearance times reduced by up to 40%, with some importers reporting a drop from 10 days to just 48 hours. In terms of revenue growth, customs collections have also surged, 3.2 trillion in 2023 to over 6 trillion in 2024, all driven by modernization and compliance programs. We also have the introduction of the advanced ruling program that has helped improve predictability and reduce disputes, with traders enjoying binding decisions on tariff classification, valuation, and origin before shipment. There is also the Authorized Economic Operator AEO program that was launched this year after a successful pilot in 2024. And this has seen clearance times for the AEOs in the pilot program cut by about 67%. That's from 168 hours to 43 hours, while pilot companies saw that trade surge, the trade volume surged triple to over 500 billion in 2024. Let me come to Afreximbank and what we have to offer in this partnership. For one, we are committed to supporting Nigeria and other customs officials in Africa to modernize their customs procedures, to build capacity and implement their commitments under the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Some of these costs could be addressed under the AFCFTA Adjustment Fund, a fund that is being initiated or actually implemented by Afreximbank and the AFCFTA Secretariats, and especially the Base Fund. The Base Fund will assist countries to address temporary tariff revenue losses and provide some grants for implementing protocols relating to customs and trade facilitation. As you saw in the video also, we're also implementing a $1 billion transit guarantee scheme, which seeks to facilitate movement of goods across the continent. The scheme was designed to address persistent transit challenges across the continent and to respond to customs authorities' concerns about the risk of goods entering their markets illegally and the potential loss of taxes and duties. Traditionally, districts have been required to post a transit bond at every border crossing, costly and causes delays of clearance of goods. Under our Afreximbank African Collaborative Transit Guarantee Scheme, a single technology-enabled transit bond is issued to secure custom duties, significantly reducing bureaucratic hurdles and facilitating smoother cross-border trade. By eliminating the need to post multiple bonds at every border, the scheme naturally enhances trade efficiency and lowers business costs substantially. That scheme is supported by a real-time cargo tracking system, and when fully implemented, it will save at least $300 million annually in transit costs. We're already implementing this scheme, as you also saw, in the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, as well as the East African Community, working with our partner, ZEPRI, the PTA Reinsurance, under a $300 million facility. And we believe we can do the same in the ECOWAS region, the Economic Community of West African States, working with ECOWAS Bank of Investment and Development so that we can support the effective implementation of regional transit guarantee system, complementing what the national insurance and chambers of commerce are currently doing. It's not to displace them, it's also to complement and actually supplement them and give them capacity to do more. We actually believe that Nigeria can champion the implementation of an effective regional transit guarantee scheme under ECOWAS, based on the new transit regulation that has been endorsed by ECOWAS. The bank is also working with the AFCFTA Secretariat to expand this program that we're already piloting in COMESA and East Africa community across the continent. A continental transit guarantee scheme will be supported by a state-of-the-art technology platform and a tracking system. And unless we do that, that proverbial Cairo to Cape Town movement of goods will be a mirage. We'll work with ECOWAS. We'll also work with the EAC to pilot this continental transit scheme, and it will allow for sharing experiences between the ECOWAS as well as the EAC regions. We also support border markets and border infrastructure, building on our experience at Bay Bridge border posts, the Zimbabwe, South Africa border post that I mentioned earlier. We'll also welcome working with Nigeria and other African countries to establish one-stop border posts and related infrastructure. For instance, we are aware of Nigeria-Cameroon Multinational Highway and Transport Facilitation Program, which includes the construction and rehabilitation of roads, building of highway structures, feeder roads, and market infrastructure, as well as the establishment of a joint border post at Umfum, ECOC. And we'll be happy to work with both Nigeria and Cameroon to work on this, to support this program. We had already, a few years ago, supported the African Development Agency, AUD and EPAD, to provide capacity building for border agencies at Umfum and ECOC on how to apply the instruments required for successful joint border posts, as the two countries prepare for the border to start operating. We also welcome working with Nigeria and other borders, outside of the one I just mentioned, as well as other countries and regions in Africa, to support the establishment of not just one-stop border posts, but also the related infrastructure around the borders, including truck stops. And that's why we welcome the private sector participation in these schemes. The bank also provides financing facilities to support development of single windows, digitization and automation of custom systems, as well as inland ports, depots, and dry ports around the borders, logistics hubs as well. I can go on and on, but in the interest of time, and I can see Mark is already there, my colleagues will do a bit more justice in ensuing sessions and panels, and we'll do a deeper dive over the next 2 days. Excellencies and distinguished guests, in reality, there is much work to do around Africa's 110 borders. It is imperative that we recognize the critical role our customs and other border agencies play in economic development. Their work ensures that goods and people move across borders safely, legally, and efficiently. But they are more than just gatekeepers at our borders. They are key enablers of trade. They are protectors of national interests and partners in development. Their professionalism, integrity, and efficiency are critical to achieving secure and seamless trade. The success of the AFCFTA will depend heavily on them. I must also add the importance and the need to support them with adequate tools, as was mentioned in the panel earlier in the morning by the Assistant Comptroller, Oboru. We need to prioritize trade facilitation, customs reform, including capacity building and modernization, as well as an integrated border management. This is a call to deliberate action to support our border officials, to support modern infrastructure, technology, and a facilitative regulatory regime, including, among others, global positioning system, GPS systems, risk management tools, and one-stop border posts. As I close, let me stress that every hour saved at the border is an hour gained for production, is an hour gained for delivery, it's also an hour gained for innovation. And every dollar we save on logistics is a dollar that can be reinvested in jobs, technology, and growth. I trust that the Customs Pact, the Partnership for African Cooperation in Trade, will be a partnership indeed. It will be remembered as a moment where we have moved Africa with intentionality from frameworks to action. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me close by reminding us all that trade facilitation is not just about moving goods, it's about moving Africa forward. And on that very note, I join Dr. Oduwole to invite you all to IATF in 2027 in Lagos. And also, perhaps, we can have another Customs Pact on the sidelines. God bless you all. Thank you.
Okay, we're getting near the end of what's been an truly extraordinary day. I want to acknowledge the Executive Secretary of Nigeria's Shippers Council, who is here with us today. If I could ask some of my colleagues to come and pick up the table over there that's been knocked over. Thank you very much. Some of my colleagues, please, over there, come and help us to tidy that up. Also want to recognize the heads of Nigeria's Export Promotion Council and the Nigeria Export-Import Bank, and also the service chiefs that are represented here today. All of the service chiefs represented, you're very, very welcome. Now, when it comes to driving intra-African trade, the next speaker could be described as omnipresent. He's everywhere, meeting everyone. Who is anyone who can move the ambitions of the AFCFTA forward? In fact, he's so busy, right, that I started at one stage to suspect that he's secretly being cloned and there's more than one Mr. Mene. His Accra headquarters is making incredible progress with the AFCFTA. So please give a warm round of applause to give his special address for the Pact Roundtable. The Secretary General of the AFCFTA, Mr. Wamkele Mene.
Thank you very much, Mark, our program director, Your Excellency, Vice President Kashim Shettima, ably representing the President, Honorable Ministers, Minister Oduwale, State Minister Dora Uzoka Anite, Comptroller General Ade Niyi, Secretary General Saunders, Madam Kanayo Awani, Executive Vice President of Afrexim Bank, distinguished Directors General, heads of customs authorities from across the continent, private sector, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be back in Nigeria. As Mark was speaking in the earlier segment, I was remembering that in 1991, the Abuja Treaty entered into force. And the Abuja Treaty foresaw or contemplated the establishment of a free trade area in Africa. And so it is befitting that we are in Abuja, where the AFCFTA was born through the Abuja Treaty in 1991, and today through the effort of Comptroller General Adeniyi, we are beginning to see the results of that vision. And so, Comptroller General, I want to thank you very much for your vision and for convening us here today. When we first met, I knew that you are a person of action who is results-oriented. And so the AFCFTA Secretariat strongly supports and strongly collaborates with your leadership to ensure that the Pact becomes a reality. And so I want to extend my congratulations to the Nigerian Customs Service and all the customs authorities that are represented here today. Customs administrations occupy at the center of implementation of the AFCFTA. We have transitioned from negotiations ably led by the Ministers of Trade. We are now in implementation mode. And in order for us to fully implement the AFCFTA and achieve the results that all of us desire to see, the leadership role of customs authorities is absolutely essential. And that is why the Customs Partnership for African Cooperation in Trade is an instrument that is indispensable as we implement the AFCFTA. In 3 provisions of the AFCFTA, in 3 annexes, the annex on customs cooperation, the annex on trade facilitation, as well as the annex on transit, we shall require the leadership of customs authorities. The implementation of rules of origin, the identification of products and the origin of these products rests primarily with customs authorities. To support this work, the AFCFTA Secretariat commits to collaborate closely with customs authorities and, of course, the private sector, the drivers of trade in Africa. In this regard, I want to congratulate the government of Nigeria. The report that Dr. Oduwale gave us about all of the hard work that has been achieved over the last few months certainly is commendable. The Nigerian Bureau of Statistics states that Nigeria's largest export destination as we speak today is the African continent. And this, in my view, is a result of the realization by the government of Nigeria and the private sector of Nigeria that there are opportunities that are presented through the AFCFTA, not only in the services sector, but most importantly also in the creative industries. And so we look forward to continuing to work with our customs authorities through the MOU that we have signed. The Secretariat greatly appreciates the partnership with the World Customs Organization. We have an MOU that was formalized 3 years ago, and in terms of that MOU, we have been able to introduce digital technologies that make our trade more efficient and more affordable. And we thank the WCO for that partnership and that collaboration. Allow me to briefly set out 1 or 2 areas of advancement that the Secretariat has made over the last few years, working and collaborating with customs authorities. First, we established the AFCFTA electronic tariff book, which enables our economic operators to determine with certainty and clarity what tariff applies to their product. We have also introduced the AFCFTA transit document, as well as Madam Kanayo Awani was saying, soon we will roll out the single bond guarantee scheme, which Afrexim Bank will underwrite and support. We also are rapidly advancing towards the digitization of certificates of origin. And in the next few months, we hope to introduce a continental platform that will enable digital issuance of certificates of origin. Again, here, at the heart of all of these reforms are customs authorities and the role that they can play to ensure that we reduce trade, the cost of trade rather, that we reduce the bureaucracy of trade, and that we enable our economic operators to access markets across the continent of Africa at very, very cost-effective rates. These reforms are essential to making the AFCFTA work at the border, to making the AFCFTA work for our private sector, our economic operators, where the trade takes place and where the financing of trade happens. And so, in this connection, under your leadership, Comptroller General, and in your capacity as the chairperson of the World Customs Organization Council, we believe you have a very unique role to play, to be an advocate not only for the African continent, but also for modernization of systems, modernization of trade, and enabling the rest of the world to better understand the achievements that have happened through the AFCFTA, particularly in the area of customs. As the AFCFTA Secretariat, we remain fully committed to working hand in hand with customs authorities. As I mentioned earlier, the ministers of trade have done what they can. They have negotiated trade rules that enable Africa to integrate economically. Now we have to rely on the leadership of our customs authorities to ensure that this agreement is implemented. And so as I close, I want to once again recommit the Secretariat to the vision that is expressed in the Customs Pact, to working very closely with you to implement this vision. I wish all of you very good deliberations over the next few days. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for His Excellency Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the AFCFTA. Now, we have come to almost the end of our program. Before we bring on our distinguished keynote show, how far we've come and the challenges we've overcome. From infrastructure deficits to regulatory hurdles, Africa is indeed rising. And this is more than just a story. It's a call to action for all of us to keep breaking barriers and building bridges. Roll that film. And we have come to that moment. And I will yield the floor to give the honors to introduce our keynote speaker. And indeed, he has a little surprise, a very nice surprise for you, Your Excellency. So I'm going to welcome back. Please put your hands together for Dr. Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, our Comptroller General of the Nigeria Customs Service, to the stage. Thank you.
Okay, Your Excellency's Sons Protocol, we just wanted to make a little presentation in a token of our appreciation to Our Excellency, Mr. President. So from that, inside this unique box are articles made in Nigeria by SMEs that we feel is eligible to trade in the continent of Africa.
Okay, thank you very much. Wonderful moment there, made 100% made in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, I now yield the floor to your keynote speaker, His Excellency representing the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please, a warm round of applause for the Vice President, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON. The floor is yours, sir.
Kindly take your seats, please. The President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Goswill Obot Akpabio, GCON, ably represented by the distinguished Senator representing Oyo South Senatorial District, Senator Sharafuddin Abiodun Ali. The Chairman, House Committee on Customs and Excise, and member representing Yagba East, Yagba West, Mopamuro, Federal Constituency of Kogi State, Right Honorable Abijide Leke Joseph. The Honorable Minister of Trade, Industry and Investments, Dr. Jumoke Oduole, MFR. The Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Doris Uzoka Anite. My brother, the Comptroller General Nigeria Customs Service, Dr. Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, FFR. the Secretary General, World Customs Organization, Ian Saunders, the Chief of Army Staff, ably represented by the Deputy Chief of Policy and Planning, Army Headquarters, Major General J.R. La, the Chief of Naval Staff, ably represented by the Chief of Logistics, Naval Headquarters, Rear Admiral S.H. Abdullahi, the Vice Chair, World Customs Organization, West and Central African Region, and the Director General of Mali Customs, Mr. Amadou Konate, the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, His Excellency, my very good friend, Wamkele Mene, the Executive Vice President, Intra-African Trade and Export Development Afro-Exim Bank, Mrs. Kanayo Awani, senior government officials present here, Directors General of African Customs Administrations present, heads of military and parliamentary agencies, heads of government agencies and parastatals, Nigerian Customs Service Board members, the diplomatic corps and representatives of international organizations, captains of industry, development partners, members of the fourth asset of the Rim, honored guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The utmost certainty in governance is that none of us can prosper in isolation. We exist to complement one another. Our size, our resources, our latent talent mean little if they are locked behind inefficient borders and fragmented markets. This is why I'm excited about the promise of this day, our collective resolve to discard the old habit of accepting slow borders as destiny and instead embrace the discipline of building borders that move at the speed of modern ambition. What we gather to pursue is the redesign of our continental future. When this administration assumed the mantle of leadership, we could only deliver our promised dividends by reforming structural barriers to trade and investment, removing bottlenecks that limit competitiveness, and rebuilding institutions for efficient regional integration. Guided by this, we unified the foreign exchange window in June 2023. We removed fuel subsidies to direct resources to critical infrastructure. We modernized port operations with 24-hour clearance. We adopted the Pan-African payment and settlement system to boost intra-African trade, and we prioritized non-oil export growth across key sectors. These reforms reinforce one another, creating a coherent foundation for stronger continental commerce and competitiveness. Each decision was a step towards a Nigeria that prays with confidence and an Africa that negotiates from a position of strength. We believe that our institutions have been deliberately aligned into a unified trade enablement architecture, dismantling the traditional silos that once separated agencies. The Nigerian Customs Service now advances digital clearance systems and risk-based inspections. The Nigerian Ports Authority drives port efficiency. The central bank enables local currency settlements through PAPs. The Standard Organization harmonizes product standards with continental frameworks. Nigerian Export Promoting Commission and Exim Bank strengthen export readiness and provide targeted financing. This coordinated, integrated institutional approach is essential for successful continental integration. For no single agency can deliver the scale of reform required for Africa's prosperity. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, central to Nigeria's continental trade strategy is the national single window, a transformative digital platform whose phase 1 goes live in March 2026 with full rollout by December 2026. It will allow businesses to submit import and export information once through a unified portal, automate interagency data sharing and real-time processing, apply risk-based compliance to speed up clearance for legitimate traders, and out cargo clearance time from 21 days to under 7. These will certainly significantly boost port productivity. Fully aligned with the AFCTA digital frameworks, the national single window positions Nigeria as a continental standard bearer for customs, digitalization, and seamless inter-African commerce. We believe that fragmented markets cannot achieve industrial scale, negotiate effectively with global powers, or withstand external shocks. Integration, however, enables large-scale industrialization, collective bargaining strength, and resilient supply chains. Nigeria approaches this responsibility with practical systems and infrastructure, not rhetoric. The strength of a continental market cannot be declared. It must be engineered. Africa has already taken the hardest step by agreeing on integration through AFCTA. The critical task now is execution. Success will be judged not by communiques, but by real outcomes. Shorter border crossing times, reliable local currency settlements, and efficient movement of goods across borders and ports. Our vision must translate from conference halls to the daily experiences of traders, manufacturers, logistic operators, and farmers. Nigeria remains firmly committed, structurally and operationally, to building an Africa that trades by design, where integration is practical, measurable, and effective. Our ambition is simple: a continent where borders facilitate opportunities rather than inhibit them. Let me commend the organizations of the Customs Pact, the Nigeria Customs Service, AFCFTA, African Bank, and WCO for this historic gathering. To the Comptroller General and the Nigeria Customs Service, your work on customs modernization, the national single window, and AFCFTA commitments reflect the practical, systems-driven approach our continent requires. And to all our participating heads of custom administrations, Africa is watching. History will judge us by execution, by how our borders function, how our systems operate, and how our trade flows. Let us commit fully to excellence in implementation. It is my singular honor and privilege to cherish forever, to declare this function open on behalf of my boss, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I thank you most sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, the Vice President. Your Excellency, if I could ask you to remain standing. Now, Your Excellency, we're going to take some photos because we love you and we want to take photos with you. And then we'll take a pledge of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then you...
Before they conclude, you will perform to the delight of the Senate President. Edo is shining. Akbaku Rescue is walking. And the people are happy. Edo is one of the safest states in Nigeria now. Akbaku Meza has helped Edo people to remove kidnapping drastically. Cultism has reduced drastically. What else can we say about this great man? To continue on this, I will next invite former Secretary of the Government of Edo State, a political leader, a father, pastor of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, a legal luminary per excellence, Oviegedege Nokao, Pastor Osaigye Izeyamo. Let the music play on. A man that loves Edo and Edo people.
Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Edo State, Senator Monday